There were so many things that happened. The danger for women is that women are not believed when it comes to any sorts of crimes. We're not believed in cases of rape. We're not believed in domestic violence. We're not believed in sexual abuse or harassment, discrimination. So the danger becomes that we have normalized not listening to women when we know that something is wrong.
Don't be fooled by this woman. She's a fraud.
The more I deal with women in life, the more they piss me off so bad.
Lui, ce qu'il veut, c'est que j'arrête de vivre. On se dit, il va pas le faire, mais si jamais il passait à l'acte.
Every woman in the world is crazy.
Ils ont agi comme des loups dans une meute. Ils se sont dit, vu que tous les autres le font, moi je peux le faire et on me remarquera pas plus que les autres. Et puis c'est pas grave, vu que les autres le font. Si je te crois.
Our country would be a better place if our women would stay home.
Know your role and shut your mouth.
Now that women are becoming more prominent, more influential, now many men decided, that is too much. My name is Laura Boldrini. I am a member of parliament in Italy. Here we are at the Chamber of Deputies, La Camera dei Deputati. And in this corridor here, we have a lot of busts. This one is the Gasperi. Here we have Matteotti, Turati, Orlando. They are all men. This is why I decided to open, an hall, to devote an hall, a specific space to the women of our republic. I decided to put 2 mirrors because I didn't have any pictures of the first woman prime minister and the first woman president of the republic. So, because no woman has obtained, so far such a recognition. When girls come here, they like to take a picture of themselves with the Presidente della Repubblica, meaning it's a way for them to think about it. It passes a message of empowerment, and girls and women need empowerment. They need also to increase their self-esteem. They have to know that everything is possible if they want.
Invito la Presidente della Camera dei Deputati, Laura Boldrini, ad assumere la Presidenza.
In 2013, I was elected President of the Camera dei Deputati, so the one who had to run the parliamentary activity. The first day I was elected, I was asked to make a speech. So I was not ready to be elected, and not even for the speech. And I had 3 hours to prepare the speech. So I thought the only thing I could do is to, put down my values.
Care deputate e cari deputati.
So I tried to put down all the values, starting from the need of having to put at the center of our activities women's rights and give women, the role they deserve.
Alla responsabilità della politica e del Parlamento.
So the parliament reacted, the whole didn't react the same way, in a sense that on the left center side, MPs were enthusiastic about this. And the other part was not at all. So I really wanted to underline these values. And because of this, I also became a target of hate.
The Five Star Movement was launched 7 years ago, founded as a protest party by the Italian comedian Beppe Grillo. The aim was to end the traditional political class in the country. It is now on its way to becoming the second force in parliament.
All started when Beppe Grillo, the head of Five Star Movement, decided to destroy my reputation. He put my big picture in a car and innocently asked his followers, "What would you do to Boldrini in a car?" The answers were absolutely awful. Thousands of violent comments, death threats, rape threats. Attacks were violent and sexist. It was terrible. It was an awful strategy. And then Matteo Salvini, who is now the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Interior, he was the second one who implemented such a strategy.
C'è una sosia della Boldrini qua sul palco. Non so se l'hanno già esibita prima.
During a rally, he took an inflatable sex doll and he said, "Here we have the president of the Camera dei Deputati." So imagine the reactions which followed, What do you do with a sex doll? And then a mayor tweets, "Let's send rapists to Boldrini's house so she will smile again." A mayor doing this has a strange idea, very dangerous idea about rape. This strategy is aimed at telling women and girls, keep far. This is a business for men. Go back to the kitchen. Go back to the kitchen.
Qui ici a déjà vécu de l'intimidation sur soit une application, un site ou un jeu? Laetitia?
À un moment donné, sur Instagram, il y a un gars qui est arrivé puis qui a dit « Allô, bitch ». Fait que là, après, il arrive et m'envoie une photo de ses abdos. Là, j'étais genre vraiment malaisée puis je trouvais ça vraiment bizarre. Il me dit genre « Attends, je me masturbe, puis comme, c'était vraiment bizarre, OK?
Ça, est-ce que c'est un gars que tu connaissais?
Non, je le connaissais pas.
Estelle.
Il m'a traité de...
Tu peux le dire.
d'hostie.
Tu sais pas c'est qui?
Non, je sais pas c'est qui.
Aujourd'hui, j'ai décidé de vous parler de violence en ligne parce que je connais ça. Je connais ça parce que ça m'est arrivé à moi aussi.
Je m'appelle Laurence Gratton. Je suis enseignante au primaire. J'ai choisi l'enseignement parce que je voulais avoir une carrière dans laquelle je pouvais m'exprimer. J'étais vraiment hyper heureuse. Je voyais ma carrière de rêve, en fait, se concrétiser. Je voyais qu'il me restait juste une dernière étape, 4 ans de bac. Puis après ça, j'allais pouvoir faire ce qui me plaisait vraiment dans la vie. J'étais vraiment excitée d'entamer cette nouvelle étape-là. L'atmosphère entre les étudiantes était très bonne. On riait, on apprenait à se connaître, puis c'était des filles qui correspondaient beaucoup à ma personnalité, avec qui je m'entendais bien. Comme j'ai toujours été dans des milieux de femmes, je me retrouvais à être dans mes pantoufles, finalement, à être dans le confort de ce que j'avais toujours connu, là. Le premier événement de cyberharcèlement, il est arrivé lorsqu'une fille dont je ne connaissais pas le nom et dont je ne me rappelais pas du visage m'a ajoutée sur Facebook. Je me suis dit, je dois l'avoir croisée, je dois lui avoir parlé 5 minutes, puis je me rappelle plus d'elle. Donc, je l'ai acceptée. Tranquillement, cette fille-là est venue apposer certains commentaires sur mes photos. J'ai commencé à me demander c'était qui cette fille-là, pourquoi j'avais aucun souvenir de lui avoir parlé, mais elle se permettait de venir m'insulter dans les commentaires sous ma photo. Je lui ai donné rendez-vous pour qu'on puisse s'expliquer. Sandra Durocher-Tremblay m'avait écrit un message personnel pour me dire « Je suis dans le local, je t'attends ». Il n'y avait personne. Pas longtemps après ça, je me mets à recevoir d'autres messages de filles qui disent étudier avec moi, être dans mes classes et constater que je prends trop de place en classe. Ça allait dans tous les sens, vraiment. Lève plus ta main en classe pour parler. Conne, salope. T'es laide. Tu sais que t'es pas belle, pis c'est pour ça que les gars te veulent pas. Tu vois pas là que t'es pas à ta place en enseignement, t'es juste une conne. Je vois pas comment une future prof peut poser des questions aussi stupides que ça. C'était toutes des filles qui notaient ce que je portais, ce que j'avais dit, qui me citaient mes paroles exactement, mais dont j'avais aucun souvenir d'avoir vu finalement. J'ai commencé à regarder autour de moi, c'était qui mes collègues. Ça m'a rendue paranoïaque. Ça a comme fait un enchaînement de sentiments d'anxiété, de peur, de plus avoir envie de m'exprimer en classe. Puis dans ce cours-là, je l'ai jamais relevé, ma main, là. J'en ai jamais refait une intervention, là. À un moment donné, j'en ai parlé à une de mes amies. Puis elle aussi, elle se faisait harceler. Puis on s'est rendu compte qu'on était plusieurs filles de notre programme à se faire harceler. Au moins 10 filles de notre programme. Donc on s'est mis à chercher, on s'est mis à fouiller. Puis on s'est rendu compte que c'était un de nos collègues de classe. Un gars.
Nope, it's a sweet treat. My name is Kiah Morris. I am a mother. I am a wife. I am a politician and an elected official from the state of Vermont. I came to visit. I was in the middle of a major life transition, and there was so much beauty that I saw here. There was a huge contrast from Chicago, but I loved the green and the mountains, having access to nature. And Vermont was full of possibility and hope and opportunity, and so I decided to take a chance and make a life out here for myself. I had been asked several times by many different people to consider running for office. So I actually entered into a training program through Emerge America and was in the first cohort of women who were being trained to run and win elected office. I got in, and I ran, and I won. I've always been a fighter, and I've always been someone who will stand up for others and speak truths. And they saw that. And they saw that I had a strong, hard work ethic, and that I could really mobilize and support our community.
Hello. Hi. Hi. I'm Kiah. Hi, I'm Cameron. Hi. How are you? Oh, you know, sweaty. Working hard.
Yeah. I printed out a script for, it's just everything that all of us are saying, not what you're saying, and just in case you wanted to follow along. And someone's working on like an introduction for you right now.
You know, every single bill that I get, I pay myself. It is tough. I'm a single person. I live in a mobile home, and every cent counts, you know.
I've been here 39 years, and I've only gotten a 50-cent raise once. And then they dropped this down to 30 cents. I mean, I would just like to have a raise.
This is hard and emotional for me, as it could be for many. I have been in these positions where you have to work 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet. The inequality and the wealth gap that we're talking about here today, the dichotomy of our economy that maintains a service class and devalues the work of those who are tracked into what becomes an invisible workforce. You have to press for that equality. We have to move forward from a position of strength, and it's important to remember right now that history does have its eyes on you. You're needed in this fight, and we have work to do, so get to work. Thank you.
There were always a few things that might pop up here or there, but nothing on a scale of what I started to experience in 2016 during my re-election campaign.
Hello. My name is Kiah Morris, and I'm running for state representative in District 22. I'm running because I love our community.
Things started to bubble up quite a bit more. We had a national campaign for the presidency and Donald Trump as the front-runner candidate.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals.
The level of hateful rhetoric that was coming through the airwaves and into every community, that was a real stun.
The President-elect of the United States of America, Donald Trump. Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory!
There was a well-known website, the Daily Stormer, that had identified and connected me up with a local neo-Nazi in the community. He was actually in my district, so someone that I represented. And really, they were asking the question, how did this Black woman get into office? This happened on your watch, essentially. And it was... It became sort of an open season because this lived in the world of Twitter, where things move at lightning speed. Started seeing different types of messages that were threatening, all sorts of really hateful language used to describe me. But there was no safe space for me other than Africa. I would have messages placed on my Facebook page from people who basically said, here is this Black woman who came here from Chicago and is coming to destroy everything that's beautiful about white Vermont.
Je m'appelle Marion Séclin, je suis comédienne et je réalise des fictions et j'ai 28 ans. J'ai commencé à jouer dans des téléfilms, à jouer dans des vidéos sur ma chaîne à moi. J'avais envie de faire des contenus, du divertissement qui parlaient de féminisme.
OK. Let's go.
Je me souviendrai toujours, en cours de sport, quand j'étais au collège, le prof de sport a dit que les barres parallèles, c'était réservé aux Jeux Olympiques aux garçons, qu'il n'y avait pas d'épreuve de Jeux Olympiques de barres parallèles pour les femmes. Et je me souviens que dès ce moment-là, je me suis dit, dans ce cas-là, je vais le faire. Dans ce cas-là, moi, je vais choisir ça. Et je serai notée là-dessus. Je suis championne de France. Merci beaucoup, merci. Ah, je sais, vous me regardez, vous vous dites, avec ses jambes, peut-être son en longueur, je sais pas. Comment ça se fait si elle est championne de quelque chose qu'on n'a jamais entendu parler d'elle? Non. Je suis championne de France dans une catégorie bien plus accessible. Tout le monde peut participer et en général, tout le monde participe sans trop le vouloir. Depuis l'été 2016, je suis championne de France de cyberharcèlement. Pendant des années, j'ai fait des vidéos sur Mademoiselle. Salut toi. Ça fait un peu plus de 4 ans que je me considère officiellement comme féministe. Je choisissais un sujet du féminisme et je demandais aux gens de réagir. Ce que je déteste vraiment quand je suis dans la rue, c'est quand il pleut. Mais ce que je déteste encore plus quand je suis dans la rue, c'est de me faire emmerder. Et je parle bien de harcèlement de rue. Et là, si j'avais pu prédire ça... J'ai arrêté de compter assez vite le nombre de messages que j'ai reçus. Je me suis arrêtée au chiffre 40 000. 40 000 insultes, menaces de mort et menaces de vie.
It's the misogyny. Here I am, a woman. Incredibly powerful. And that frightens people.
En fait, je m'intéresse à l'insulte depuis une vingtaine d'années. C'est ma fréquentation des réseaux numériques qui m'a progressivement mis en contact avec beaucoup de violences verbales à l'égard des femmes et paradoxalement aussi avec, je trouvais, le renouveau d'une parole féministe. Et évidemment, comme tout renouveau de la parole féministe, ça s'accompagne d'insultes. On a des traces de l'insulte depuis l'Antiquité. Évidemment, ce sont des traces écrites. Sans doute que l'insulte de rue existait à l'époque, mais ça, évidemment, on n'a pas de documents. C'est quand il y a la révolution industrielle, au 19e, qu'on a des femmes qui vont, en effet, des ouvrières, des serveuses, etc., vont aller dans les rues. Et c'est à ce moment-là qu'on a les premières traces de harcèlement sexiste. C'est quand les femmes ont commencé à sortir dans l'espace public qu'elles ont été insultées. C'est les premiers mouvements d'émancipation, c'est les premières suffragettes, c'est les demandes de droit de vote. Et alors, il y a une prise en compte à ce moment-là de ce qu'on peut appeler déjà le harcèlement sexiste. Et puis aujourd'hui, on a la viralité. L'insulte s'est adaptée à la technologie. On parle en fait avec le numérique de violence augmentée à l'égard des femmes. En 2015, l'ONU a fait paraître une étude qui montrait que les phénomènes de harcèlement et de violence sur le net, c'était majoritairement les femmes et les jeunes femmes qui étaient victimes de cela. À quoi sert l'insulte finalement aux femmes? Peut-être à dire, en fait, tu me déranges quand tu es dans l'espace public. En fait, pourquoi tu es là? Ces femmes-là vont être d'autant plus insultées, surtout si elles prennent la parole publiquement. Si elles se cachent, si elles ne disent rien, elles vont être préservées. Mais en même temps, du coup, elles ont le droit à la parole et à la liberté d'expression qui disparaît pour elles.
I'm surprised that there are people who have seen the extent and the severity of digital misogyny and that they aren't more concerned and more horrified by it. Sometimes it's prominence and success. It's a way of cutting women down when they become most visible and vocal, and they seem to be having the most influence. And often those attacks come at exactly that moment when the woman steps out into the spotlight, at the first moment when people have heard her name, and it's designed to take something that should feel triumphant and exciting, and instead to make her terrified and to try to silence her and shut her down. There's a slight difference between large-scale attacks that happen all at once and attacks that happen sort of over a longer period of time. Those tend to be targeted toward women who have had long careers, who have made inroads, and it's just a steady stream of hatred meant to remind them that they can never fully rest. The rise of misogyny online really worries me, and the normalization of misogyny, the spread of the idea that misogyny is normal and natural, and that feeling that men are superior to women is just a normal feeling. That really concerns me.
Quand je recevais des messages, j'essayais vraiment de, de faire de l'évitement. Je me disais, c'est pas grave. Je me disais, c'est uniquement sur Internet. J'essayais de me faire croire que ça m'atteignait pas. Mais à un moment donné, avec le temps, ça finit par t'atteindre. Avec le volume de messages, avec la durée dans le temps, ça finit vraiment par nous atteindre.
Ce gars-là, il harcelait des filles depuis longtemps. Donc là, on est allé voir la doyenne. On lui a montré les screenshots. On lui a expliqué qu'on savait que c'était ce gars-là. Elle a regardé ça, puis elle nous a répondu qu'elle, elle gérait l'université, elle gérait pas Facebook. Lui, quand il a su qu'on était allé voir la doyenne, il était vraiment pas content.
T'as pas fini d'en baver.
Faudrait que tu fasses attention. Il va peut-être t'arriver quelque chose. Je veux juste te dire que je sais où t'habites.
Il y a eu un message qui contenait mon adresse. Comme si mon harceleur a voulu me faire un rappel. Je sais où tu habites. Je sais où tu vis.
Lui, il avait un dossier dans son ordinateur avec nos photos. Puis comme on avait déjà fait des travaux d'école avec lui, il y avait nos adresses, nos numéros. Il a été sur des sites porno du dark web. Puis il a créé des profils avec notre nom et nos photos sur un site de Golden Shower. Puis là, il correspondait avec des gars avec ces comptes-là. Comme si c'était moi, là.
Je souhaite que tu te fasses casser toutes les dents puis que tu te fasses défigurer.
Je souhaite que tu te fasses violer. Je veux que tu te fasses violer.
Là, les menaces, à un moment donné, elles se sont intensifiées, puis elles étaient plus juste des menaces vagues, en fait. C'était vraiment la personne nommée qu'elle voulait me battre, qu'elle allait me tuer. Là, à ce moment-là, j'ai commencé vraiment à paniquer. Puis je me suis dit, il faut que j'aille voir la police. Il n'y a aucune chance que je continue à faire ma vie de façon normale et régulière si je n'ai pas une protection de la police. Ben, ça fait à peu près 50 messages qu'il envoie à moi puis 3 autres de mes amis. Ils nous contactent à répétition.
Pourquoi les fois les menaces de mort? Parce que pour ça, des menaces directes.
Puis Facebook, c'est pas une menace directe. La police nous dit poliment qu'on comprend que c'est plate, mais qu'on peut rien faire. Et moi, je leur demande, ben, on peut pas se faire protéger, on se fait menacer de mort. Ils nous menacent de nous battre, de nous tuer, puis vous êtes en train de nous dire que vous pouvez pas nous protéger. Malheureusement, on peut rien faire pour vous. Je vais la prendre, votre déposition. Mais vous nous dites que c'est ce gars-là, on n'a pas de preuves, ce sont des faux comptes. Il n'y a aucune façon, avec les paramètres de confidentialité de Facebook, d'aller vérifier si c'est cet homme-là. La police nous a dit, ben c'est simple, vous voulez plus qu'il vous harcèle? Vous voulez plus entrer en contact avec lui? Supprimez votre identité sur Internet. C'est complètement illogique, là.
Il viendrait cogner à ma porte, là, puis il me menacerait. Je pense que là, la police aurait fait quelque chose, puis je pense qu'il serait peut-être en prison aujourd'hui s'il avait fait des choses comme ça. Mais là, étant donné qu'il me harcèle via les réseaux sociaux, via Internet, je pense qu'il est conscient que les lois sont peut-être pas adaptées à ça, puis je pense qu'il est conscient qu'il continue, puis qu'il n'y a aucune réprimande là, à ce qu'il fait. Ouais.
He was actually in my district, a madman, terrorizing my life with glee and openly saying that he can. I reached out to try to get support. I called local law enforcement, and it really was, well, a couple of bad tweets. What are you gonna do? That's part of what happens when you're in office. I did not want to pretend that this was just another thing online, that it was something that needed to be taken seriously.
Because of the nature of the words used, the tone of the words, the symbols that were utilized, and the like, that this does cross the line from speech to something that would cause emotional distress.
I was able to get an order of protection, which also included that that person could not contact me. Once that order of protection ran out, that individual started back up again. I really hadn't been watching or been looking for him in those spaces, but he had started all over again. And by this point had started collecting people and had really been gaining a following.
Hey everybody, Kevin Hoy live from beautiful Bennington, Vermont. We don't want people like Kiah Morris in our community. When I say that, it has nothing to do with the color of her skin, everything to do with her lying, cheating, sneaking butt and all the crimes that she has committed. Don't be fooled by this woman. She's a fraud, someone who is a non-Vermonter, someone who is here to wreak havoc, to race bait, cause a mass division among the people. We don't want people like Kiah Morris in our community.
It was a frightening experience to have emails and postings from people who would create these insane accusations that I was fraudulent and I was stealing funds, that I had committed all of these sorts of crimes. There have been postings talking about the necessity of having me being raped because it's a corrective action, right? It's a corrective action meant to silence and meant to dehumanize and meant to make someone live in terror. It's all absolutely part of this intense game that these people are playing with our lives and our humanity and our civil rights.
Pendant MeToo, j'ai témoigné d'une agression sexuelle que j'ai vécue quand j'étais adolescente. Quand j'avais 16 ans, je me suis fait par mon copain de l'époque et des amis à lui. Le pire pour moi, entre mon agression sexuelle et mon cyberharcèlement, ça a été le cyberharcèlement.
Coupé.
Le cyberharcèlement, c'était extérieur et puis c'était sur la durée. J'ai l'impression que c'est pour ça que mon cyberharcèlement a été pire. C'est qu'il dépendait de trop de personnes et que je savais pas quand est-ce qu'il se finirait.
Très bien, et nous avons un cadre. Ouais, c'était rien pour vos yeux.
L'impact psychologique que ça a eu, c'est que ça m'a affaibli terriblement. Ça a affaibli toute ma confiance. Chaque commentaire que j'ai lu est un commentaire qui est coincé dans ma tête.
Vous regardez, vous ouvrez son truc. Yes. Allez.
Ça tourne.
Et sur un B, troisième. Action.
J'avais jamais eu d'envie dans ma vie. J'ai eu envie de à des moments.
I don't accept the fact that this can be considered normal. It is not normal. And I don't want, you know, girls and women to decide whether to stay in the web and accept constant humiliations or to leave internet, to leave the social media. That's not the kind of choice we have to do. I wrote a letter to Mark Zuckerberg inviting him to be more active to tackle hate speech. I don't want the internet and social media become a place of violence, and I would like them to take their own responsibilities. The answer I got was very disappointing. Our rules in Italy are not necessarily the rules of Facebook, which has an international policy. And so what is the crime at the national level, like, you know, promoting hate speech? It is not a crime for Facebook. And this is a serious problem. So if the platforms in which this occurs doesn't take any measure to stop it, then you are part of the problem, not part of the solution.
I think that social media platforms are aware that the biggest problem they have is the content that they solicit. What I mean by that is these platforms without user-generated content would be empty vessels. They would be nothing. In order to entice people to use the platforms, they solicit people's self-expression. They've set up their business model to need that and to need it relentlessly and endlessly. So just as one example, YouTube alone gets 400 hours of video per minute per day, every day. The platforms are aware that when they open the floodgates, some portion of that is going to be deeply objectionable and problematic.
Why are all women so stupid?
It becomes actually an issue of where's the line?
If we legalize rape, women will be more careful with their bodies and not go into the private rooms of men that they don't want to have sex with.
A lot of material that's popular are things that just straddle the line. Things that play on tropes and stereotypes and misogyny.
Women are becoming sluts.
Women are peak sexy when they are submissive and obedient.
If I can't have you, girls, I will destroy you.
Content that is disturbing or contains hate speech or contains other kind of material that's offensive can actually be lucrative in a number of ways. And it can be lucrative in the sense that it can drive engagement. I feel like there's a longer trajectory to this. Like what happens, for example, when you grow up online being desensitized to misogyny? We have a whole generation of people who are in the process of growing up with these platforms. We don't know who they'll be or how these things will impact them on the other side just yet. It seems to me that there will be a social toll associated with that going forward that we have yet to really fully realize.
I want to be a vet when I grow up so I can help animals feel better.
Tomorrow is April 3rd, and April 3rd, 6 years ago, I picked my daughter Rehtaeh up at a counselor's meeting, and I drove her home to her mom's house. And I didn't know when I was driving away that I'd never see Rehtaeh alive again. That was the last time I ever saw my daughter. That was the last time she said, "I love you, Dad." It's the last time I heard it. And she was my only child. So I'm here today doing this talk because I know, I truly do believe in my heart that what happened to my daughter was preventable. On November in 2011, Rehtaeh went to a sleepover at a friend's house, and there was 2 boys there. The boys had some vodka, so Rehtaeh had a couple shots of vodka. She remembers doing that, and then she remembers waking up the next morning between 2 boys that she didn't know at all. And her clothes were partially undone and partially removed. And the way she described it, she said she knew something had happened to her body, but she wasn't sure what. On the Monday, Rehtaeh went into school in the morning and realized that the story has already started. The story that she slept with guys. They had actually taken a picture of themselves doing this to her, and it spread around her school. She heard about that, and that pushed her right over the edge. People would laugh at her and make fun of her and ask her if she's the whore hanging out the window. Because she was assaulted, they actually carried her to a window because she was so intoxicated she started to throw up. And they hung her out the window, and that's when they took the photograph of one of the boys assaulting her when she was in that state. But people just made fun of it, and it was just brutal. You know, me and her mom have always said that, you know, when the boys did this to Ray, when they assaulted her and took that picture and spread it around, it's like they put a bunch of bullets in a gun. People were writing on her Facebook that sluts aren't welcome in the school. She'd constantly be getting texts from guys who would just say filthy things, you know. There was a girl who let Ray know that no matter what high school, because she had to change high schools, and they were, whatever high school you go to, I'm just going to make sure everyone at that high school has the picture. People were absolutely vicious and so unforgiving. It was merciless. The torrent of abuse was too much. She was a ghost of who she used to be. She lost almost everything. We couldn't get her back into school to stay, and when we did try that, you know, there would be people in the school who would start attacking her almost right away. We were powerless as parents to do anything about this at all because we had contacted the police. They just, not a single time, intervened in trying to stop the photo from being spread around. Not a single time. They didn't go talk to anybody or hold anyone accountable, try to get it out of the schools, nothing. They told us it wasn't a police matter, it was a community matter. And they just didn't do anything about it. The April following her assault, Rehtaeh's aunt came home, and Ray had actually been in her bedroom with a belt, and she was getting ready to hang herself. And this was almost a year to the day when she actually did do it. I think she was a victim of misogyny in a systemic level. I think her life had less value than a boy's life. I think that was the driving force behind the police investigation. You know, it's a rape culture, it's a misogynist culture. Women can tell you they're attacked all the time online and harassed and ridiculed, and it's brutal, man. It's just, it allowed the worst of our community to have a voice, and that's the biggest downfall of it at all. People who before kept to themselves now feel brave enough to say anything they want to, and some of them just take pleasure in being as ignorant as they can.
Online world shows you the depth of what's really lying underneath. The online world is but a reflection of the conversations that used to happen behind closed doors. This is not something that is just the bad result of a prank gone wrong. This is a means of mobilizing. It is a means of connecting those who maybe haven't even defined what their ideologies might be, but they're finding resonance in something that's being said. And it validates what they want to believe and what they see in the world around them. I reached out to our Federal Bureau of Investigation, as they're the most reasonable entity to do any kind of investigative work, to find out what was happening, because we had been seeing signs that there was white nationalist movement that was taking place, recruitment flyers that were left in different places, graffiti that had been found both in public spaces, on the vehicles of local youth, in the woods where I would walk with my son. There were swastikas found and painted on the trees. There just was not an understanding and a willingness to really admit that there was something more to this because of the fact that it began in an online space. Women are often left to fight our own battles in everyday life, and especially online.
On ne sait jamais quand est-ce qu'il va décider peut-être de mettre à exécution ces menaces-là. Les gens m'ont souvent répété « Laisse-le faire, c'est juste un fou. » Oui, il dit qu'il va venir te tuer, mais il fera jamais rien. Laisse-le faire. Je sortais, puis chaque fois, je regardais des deux côtés de la rue. Je regardais s'il n'y avait pas quelqu'un autour. Les gens ne comprennent pas à quel point c'est drainant de vivre toujours dans la peur qu'il va t'arriver quelque chose.
You never know who they are. I try to have a normal life. You always have, you know, at the end, sort of thinking that here everything can happen. I don't know. I was threatened by people that they had weapons at home. There could be somebody here in the crowd who may want to hit me.
Should we be afraid is a loaded question. I guess the better question is, are we afraid? What happens online finds its way into the real world. Those calls to action to bring about violence against women, they are happening. So it's not a question of should we be afraid, but are we afraid? And does that fear cause us to retreat? Does it cause us to feel fear in a way that is effective for their purposes? We need to see that these are crimes of a new modern age, and that terrorism gives a direct pathway to real violence in the physical world.
They just stomped on the porch, bashed up against the doors and stuff like that, and then took off. And so we called the police. The fence that's over there, it sounded like somebody running with a stick across it, like a, bicycle spokes, like that. A little bit later, they were shooting paintballs, and then the whole side of the shed, roof, side of it, everything was all covered. Somebody drove by and yelled out the window, "F you, bitch. Go back to Chicago." It was 4 o'clock in the morning. There was a guy standing up here, and he was talking to the other gentleman that was down on the road. And I came out the kitchen door and confronted him. He was right there in between the telephone pole and those bushes. We come to find out later that one of his buddies was in the cellar downstairs. And so he must have been trying to keep me busy, so I didn't find out that his guy was down there. I changed everything. It completely took away any sense of security, any sense of safety that we had in our home.
Do you know what it's like to talk to your mother when she's in tears and begging you to leave the state and to never come back?
Yeah.
To know that there is someone your mother is living in fear for her daughter's life, for doing what she raised her to do, which is to stand up for other people, which is to be a positive force for good, and that is threatening the life of her child. She has to worry about me. She has to worry about her grandson. No one should have to live that way. No one.
I had a message sent to me telling me that if I didn't put my wife in her place, they were going to have to come do it for me. I did report that to the chief of police.
Let's send rapist to Boldrini's house so she will smile again. A mayor, so an institutional figure. Is it possible to accept this way of doing politics in a democratic country? Instigation to is a crime. I decided that I had to react to this. I decided to sue him for defamation. Io veramente vorrei dedicare questa sentenza a mia figlia, che non dovrà mai smettere di credere nella giustizia, e a tutte le figlie d'Italia che devono sapere che in questo paese c'è una giustizia che non consente l'umiliazione delle donne. After that is follows. They put my effigy on fire. The heaviest, it was a day when I received by post a bullet. When you receive a bullet, it's concrete, it's real. It's a clear threat to your life. That day, I realized that we had entered a new stage of violence. Look at Jo Cox in the UK. Jo Cox was an MP. She received threats on the social media, and then she was killed. She was killed.
She's somebody who dedicated her life to human rights and to justice. She became an MP for the area where she was born and grew up and loved. In Parliament, she was respected across the whole House. Somebody with a deep commitment and deep passion for human rights and justice.
For 2 years, we lived in my husband's childhood home, feeling unsafe.
Vermont's Attorney General T.J. Donovan says after 4 months of investigating, there's not enough evidence to prosecute anyone for some of the incidents that include vandalism and a home invasion, and he cannot take negative commenters to court.
I find the statements presented to us in this matter, while racist, insulting, and degrading, are not subject to prosecution. The Constitution does not permit us to prosecute racist speech because we find it offensive.
When we ask Morris for her reaction to Donovan's report,
There is absolutely nothing that can be done. No.
her response was interrupted by the man who admits to harassing her.
Oh, wow.
No.
It came as a shock to many in the room.
No. Why is this allowed? Why is this allowed?
I asked Morris if she wanted to comment on the unexpected end to the press conference. However, she declined. It's also worth noting that she seemed shaken by the turn of events.
You are never, ever required to tolerate hate, to tolerate intimidation, to tolerate harassment. No one is required to endure that. Was not going to be worth me risking my life, that of my family, for a system that was just not ready to deal with this new world of technology. So it was a really difficult decision, but I made that choice to step away, and I made that choice to resign. After all that has happened and the things that we need to move forward with for our future, we realized that we need to move to a place that will allow for us to have a fresh start in many ways. That sense of what we want to say is safety is also about feeling at peace at the place where you call home.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes beyond the lot lines of this particular piece of property. And it spills into so many other worlds. And now in the online world, we have a whole nother dimension of spaces and places that exist that have suspicion built around them, that have distrust built around them. And that's a lot for anyone to have to endure. And it has really negative outcomes for us.
We have no delusions about the fact that this is going to follow us online. They have already put out there that we're moving and where we're moving to.
everybody. Kevin Hoy live from beautiful Bennington, Vermont once again. And I've got good news and bad news today. The good news is I see Representative, or she's no longer Representative, ex-Representative Kiah Morris has her house for sale. She's actually leaving Bennington, which is awesome. The bad news, unfortunately, is for our neighbors to the west. Brattleboro, Vermont is going to get a new resident. So it looks like Kiah is looking for homes. I know she has friends and connections. Everybody have a great day, and thanks for watching. See ya.
We can't underestimate the cyber violence anymore. Next step is working on a law. I'm now working on establishing a team of experts to work at a bill on hate speech and fake news and on the platform's responsibility, like the German law. In Germany, Facebook, for instance, they had to invest in monitoring the messages and remove the violent messages within 24 hours. So if they don't do this, they have to pay a very heavy fine. I don't know if this bill would be, voted, but at least I think I have the duty to work on it and to try. If we keep silent, we risk to lose what we obtained decades of work, because our rights are at risk everywhere in the world. Now it's the time to react.
Vous le savez, ou peut-être pas. Chaque jour en France, autour de nous, autour de vous, des femmes sont victimes de violences sexistes et sexuelles. Chaque jour, chaque minute. Ces violences nous pourrissent la vie. Elles affectent notre confiance en nous. Elles détériorent notre santé. Les cyberviolences sexistes ne sont pas une fatalité. Elles doivent cesser. Participez à la marche du 24 novembre pour dire à toute la société que nous allons en finir avec les cyberviolences sexistes.
Lève ta main si tu sais c'est quoi de l'intimidation. Pour moi, c'est plus qu'important, c'est primordial de parler de cyberviolence aux jeunes parce que, au-delà de la dénonciation, c'est le geste que je peux poser qui est le plus concret pour prévenir. Parce que si moi, je le fais pas, puis que leurs parents le font pas, ben ces jeunes-là, ils ont personne à qui se rallier pour savoir exactement les comportements à adopter.
Each individual has to find their courage to stand up and scream from the rooftops.
As a woman, my courage must work towards the eradication of issues of race, gender inequality, and the promotion of all human and civil rights.
You cannot accept to live with violence. This is not acceptable. We have to say no at all levels. We have to speak out. If we speak, we change things.